Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, we get hopped up on hops and take a closer look at the hop formerly known as HBC 1019. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us.
I was just thinking about how in the intros, it's been a really long time since I've hit you with anything other than just I feel like we'd do another one where I just say a random response to you when you say my name.
Yes, you haven't done that in ages.
I haven't done that in a really long time, at least a year.
Yeah.
And it just hit me as I said hello, that I was like, oh, it's been a long time since I've said anything other than that, just to throw you off.
Yeah, you haven't done anything. You've been very good.
I haven't. I've been very good, yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about a very fun topic today.
I feel bad because you're basically repeating some of a conversation that you had to do for International Women's Day. And I'm like, do you want to talk about it again?
I'll let you into a secret. I repeat this conversation quite a lot.
Yeah, so I feel like you're probably like, oh, and to be fair, we might have even talked about this piecemeal on various episodes that we've done in the past as well. But it is that thing of like, oh, sorry, do you want to talk about this again? Probably the 800th time for you.
I can talk about that. I can talk about hops. I can talk about hops a lot.
We actually have a really good means of demonstrating certain things this time. So I was like, do you want to talk about it again?
We do. So this episode started because we do actually both have, if you're watching the video, we both got a random silver vac-packed packet in our hands.
Mystery bag.
It's not a mystery bag.
It's not a mystery to me, but it's a mystery to everyone else right now.
Yeah. If you got this bag, you would be like, what magical thing is in there? Because it's not got anything written on it. We both have a bag in this bag are T90 pellets of the hop variety Dolcita. It is crop year 2024. So actually it wouldn't have been called Dolcita when these hops were harvested. It would have still been called HBC 1019. Because it hadn't got its name by then. And I believe, if I can remember what was on the packet, I believe it's got its alpha acids are 10.9%. For anybody that wants to know that.
It's too much numbers involved. I would have never remembered that. So I'm glad. I could probably tell you what the label. I could probably be like, these are the colours that were on the bag. This is roughly what the design. Anything number based, and I'd be like, meh.
But so we have these. We took some to our International Women's Day brew at Mirakai Brewing. Hi Ollie, hi Emma. Watch this space because we are going to get them on to talk about the beer once it is finished. But I did a little talk about hops, hop breeding, hop selection around these hop pellets so that we could teach everybody there how to do a rub and sniff and a little bit about hops. And Tori was like, well, we've got a bag of this each. Do you want to talk about it on the podcast?
Do you want to do it
again? And I'll always talk about hops. Repeat? So
I feel like I remember us talking about hop development and commercialization stuff before in other episodes when it's come up on the side.
And around harvest time, I think I've kind of said snippets about it.
I think it's been when we've talked about it as a side tangent or a little glimpse into it as something else, but we've never talked about it as a main episode.
Never really dug deep into it. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about hop development, a little bit about commercialization, and then we'll do a little bit of talk about Dolcita because we do each have a beer that has Dolcita in it. So that worked out quite nicely.
We do, but that's not actually what we're drinking first. That's going to be part two in terms of what we're drinking right now. Joe, what are you drinking?
So we went into our fridges and we went to see what beers we had with experimental hops in.
Because I only had one Dolcita. So it's
I do have another beer with Dolcita in, but it is an experimental beer that was brewed by our brewing team at work. So it's not a real beer. I mean it is. It's
a very real beer.
It is a real beer. It's in my fridge. It in fact won silver at the Brussels Beer Championship. Or Brussels Beer Challenge. It won silver. But because no one else would be able to get hold of it, I didn't think it was fair to drink that one on here when I had something else in the fridge. I have Refraction by Italian brewery Busa di Briganti.
I've got that one, and I should have
You do?
also, because you got it for me. And had I known that was going to be the one you picked, I could have picked that one. I'm very happy with my choice, but I could have picked that one.
You told me what you had to choose from, and I thought you had good choices, so I didn't say, well, we both got this, so why don't we do it? I thought it'd be nice for us to have different things. So the reason I picked this is it has got Eclipse, which is an Australian hop in it, but it has also got on the can. It says HPA 033. So that's Hop Products Australia Experimental Hop 033. This was named, so it got its commercial name on the 3rd of March this year, 2026.
Oh, that's very recent.
Very, very recently, it got its commercial name, and its commercial name is now Luna. So you will start to see beers with Luna in. Not very many, because the crop wasn't huge. And in fact, because of when the Australian crop comes in, so we are in springtime now in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, they are in their harvesting season for hops. So literally March is when they start getting their hops. So there's a little bit of crop 2025 in UK and Europe. There will be a little bit more for crop year 2026, and crop year 2026 from Australia usually comes in around July-ish, depending on how well it all goes. There'll be a little bit more for 2026, but then there will be even more for 2027. So you will start to see Luna in more and more beers. But if you're interested and you see a beer with it in, get it, because there won't be very many about just at the moment. And that, if you're interested in what that hop tastes like, it has notes of mango, dark berry, and spicy citrus.
Oh, I like spicy citrus. Sounds fun.
Yeah, it depends, and obviously it depends on when you use it, as to when you get and what you combine it with. In this beer, it's with Eclipse, which has quite orange citrus notes. So a lot of the mango is coming through in this beer at the moment. It is delicious.
Sounds delicious. I was going to say it sounds delicious. I can't wait to have mine now. Yeah, I feel like you were able to rattle all of that off the top of your head, and I'm like, I'm just going to read off other things because I don't know. But I have Black Tide Brewing, which is a Japanese brewery. They're based in Sendai. And I went to the brewery. I think I had one of their beers before. Took loads of beers back from theirs because they had so many interesting things. And I picked this one strictly because I wanted something with an experimental hop, just to kind of, I knew that was kind of going to be the topic we were talking about. And this one's literally called Files HBC 638. So, and it's made with HBC 638. So I can't really tell you. I can show you the can's really pretty. It's like a lotus flower and a fish on the side, a shiny fish. But I can't really tell you anything else because it is all in Japanese, and it would take me too long to try to read that, and no one would find that fun or interesting as I sat there and sounded things out for 5 minutes. Instead, I will use that time to tell you I did look up the tasting notes. I can't rattle them off my brain, but I can read them to you. So I've pulled from the John I. Haas website and the Yakima Chief website. So using John I. Haas, it says HBC 638 CV is both familiar and exciting at the same time. New variety combines classic characteristics of hops like Centennial, bright citrus, fresh flowers, and a touch of stone fruit with a modern tropical punch of mango, pineapple, banana, cherry, strawberry, and cantaloupe. The main tasting notes, it's sweet fruit, citrus, berry, and currant, which I think I'm getting mainly like the citrus elements of it. It's got a sweetness, but it's like a very delicate sweetness, which I guess is probably more like, if you were going to say like cantaloupe, that probably would, that delicate sweetness to it, and it's mainly citrus there. But what I did find as well when I was looking, so I pulled up those two websites, which pretty much kind of say similar tasting notes anyways, found a website called Beer Analytics, which has like all these visuals and like graphs and lots of really interesting data. So I don't know, like I haven't really dug into it because I only found it right before this recorded. but I'm interested in going and checking it out. So it's literally beer-analytics.com. And I'm wondering how many other hop things they have. But they have things like hop pairings, which I'm assuming is what you'd normally pair it with, maybe. They've got like dosage per use, and they've got it broken down by boil, dry hop, like just really nerdy shit. So maybe we'll share the link really so you can check out
to talk about today as well. So that goes.
Share the link for the beer analytics as well, so that people can go and they can check out all the. I haven't even played around on this website, but I will, because I'm like, this is some nerdy ass shit, and I love it. So
if I remember the last, like it was quite a while ago that I did a rub and sniff of 638, and I think I got like raspberry ripple off of that one. But it does, like, it depends on what other hops you're pairing it with when you add it to the beer. The raw hop, so what we call raw hop outside of beer, can sometimes be different than how it shows up in the beer. So that's also a consideration when hops are being picked to be commercialized.
It does say that its origins are United States, so it's dual purpose. It does say, like, this nerdy website, which I love. It's like purpose, dual purpose, alpha, high, origin, US. So I'm like, these are great. But I think for me, it's definitely that, like, there's a bit of dryness at the back end of it. Obviously, that could just be the beer versus the taste from the hops. But there's that I think it is mainly like cantaloupe delicateness combined with a citrus note, which is it's very lovely. So I'd be interested to try more, just to kind of compare and contrast. This one's just a hazy IPA, 6% hazy IPA. I will say it doesn't taste 6%. So yeah, I thought, you know what? It's a nice manageable 330ml bottle can. I really want to drink my Japanese beers, and yeah, there you go. Nerd stuff.
Well, I've got some more nerd stuff for you. Are you ready?
So ready.
So I've got a bunch of stuff about hop breeding programs and hop development, and why hop breeding matters is what we're going to start with.
Spicy.
Right. So, I mean, within my research and also like my day-to-day job, we can probably say that hops are one of the most dynamic ingredients in modern beer. I feel like yeast people will contest that, but today we're talking about hops. So,
like, it's not about you today.
It's not about you today. It's about me. So over the last 20 to 30 years, there has been an explosion of hop varieties, and they have shaped modern beer styles, because when a brewer gets these hops, they can do different things and experiment with them. And with the varieties that have come about recently, they're usually quite useful for like IPAs and pale ales and things like that. So, we've got a lot of hop forward beer styles lately because those hops are there to be utilized in them. New hop varieties don't appear by accident. They come from breeding programs from around the world, and they combine science, agriculture, and brewing insight when they're choosing and developing these hops. So these hop breeding programs will aim to create varieties that deliver unique flavors and aroma profiles. Like we all know, like, unless you're new to craft beer and you're new around here, everyone knows about Citra, everyone knows about Mosaic. Those have come out of breeding programs, but they are, when Citra arrived, it revolutionized the beer industry. Sometimes hop breeding programs are like, there's a lot of talk around finding the next Citra. I'm doing air quotes as I say that. Like, I think we're kind of getting to a point now where we feel like we may never find the next Citra, because do we need another Citra?
Which is so versatile, isn't it? Because I think that's the thing, is like Citra is so versatile that I can't imagine it works so well on its own. It works with other things. Like, why if it's not broken, don't fix it.
It doesn't need replacing, right? It is. No. It does what it does. What we need is other tools in the toolbox. So we need hops that create other flavors and other unique attributes, flavors and aromas that can be added to the beer from these hops. So that's the kind of thing that breeding programs will be focusing on. They also want to make sure that they perform well agronomically, so that they grow well. Dr. Doom and Gloom is back.
I was going to see if Dr. Doom and Gloom was back, because I was going to say Citra. How resilient is
Citra's
Citra?
fine. Citra. We haven't got any problems with Citra.
Okay.
Yeah, no problems with Citra.
I was worried.
It's that because that's been bred, it's better off than much older hops, SARS, all the Hallertales. These older ones, some of these are the first hops that we found and started to cultivate. So, they were wild and then we cultivated them as a plant. They have been around for a very long time. They got used to the way the weather patterns worked and grew to match that. And now where, climate change is real, we're having windier periods, wetter periods, drier periods. And that is then upsetting how much of the acids, oils in the hops develop, how many hop cones you get. And if you don't get the yield that you expect because of a wet winter, a dry summer, then you're not going to meet the quotas or the contracts that people have put in. Like, you can't magically make more hops if we don't grow enough.
When you say about the yield, like, is it a case of, this is going to be a really stupid question, but I need to ask the stupid questions. Is it a case of like you have, I don't know what's like an average on any, when you're growing hops, how many of these, like how many you're expected to get off? Like, and when you say like a bad yield, is that you have less of the buds like on, less that are coming from a singular plant, or possibly, is it just less plants?
So the yield, so the plants will be there the same, like, so hops grow on a vine, they're quite big plants, like you get this like the same number of those.
Vine was the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of the word vine, and I was like, how do I describe it?
So it grows from something called a rhizome that's in the ground, and then so that will come back every year. So you have the same amount of rhizomes every year. Unless
is it like grapes, where you kind of like when you grow grapes, they are always in the same?
Yep. But it then depends on how many cones you get on that vine, because it's the cones are the bit that you want, and also how much of the acids and the lupulin and the oils have developed within those cones while it's growing, because that can fluctuate year to year.
How do you test that? Do you just like pick one and then send it for testing?
Science is fascinating. They get them tested. Some hop growers just know, like they can tell from the smell at what point it's at. Some of them, like, there's also they get to a point before they pick them where they know, like, the moisture, they can hear. This sounds really crazy, but they can hear the moisture level in the hop. I've literally seen hop growers in a field pick a thing up and like hold it to the
I think I'd be like,
no, that's not ready yet.
I think I'd be there and I'd be like, bullshit. Right? Like I'd be like, bullshit. And like it's not, but I think I wouldn't believe it.
There is a hop farm in Kent where they don't, like, most of the bigger hop farms, like in the US and in Germany and stuff, they have tests that they do. There's like moisture meters and things that they can take out in the field and check it. There is a hop farm in Kent where the head farmer goes out and is like, and listens to the hops to see if they're ready, because it's like a rustle, right? You know whether it's still like got too much moisture in it or whether it's got the right rustle.
I love that you've just said that, like that's everyone knows the right rustle level. Like, no,
I mean, I don't know the right rustle level, but if you think about a plant, but if you think about a flower, right, you know, when it's fresh, it's kind of like the leaves are a bit wetter, but then the flower dries out. Like you've seen a flower, but as it dies, it dries out, right?
Yes, yeah.
So there's a point where it's at its optimum and it's dried out just enough that it's right to be picked. It's not too wet. It's not too dry. It hasn't gone too far past.
I would have no idea. Like, genuinely.
I mean, I have no idea what it is. I'd be but like, people who do this year on year, that these are generations of hop growers, and they just know. It's like a baker, right? A baker just knows when things are, or a chef. They know when things are done. You know from your experience when it's right and when it's ready. And farmers are the same.
I think that's that thing of like, it is so impressive because you're like, it's got that rustle, right? Like, you know, and I'm like, no, I don't know. And then
Said
you're
that
like,
really
you know, it's,
confidently.
yeah,
I
like,
don't
it's
know
like,
what the
you know,
rustle- like, I don't
there's
know
a
what the
rustle. And
rustle
I'm
is,
like,
but they
no.
do.
And then you're like, you know, like flowers, they're the right level and words. I'm like, no, also no. And I find that so impressive because that's the thing of like, I genuinely, if I saw someone in a field being like, no, I'm just listening to the moisture levels, I'd be like, that is bullshit. Like, that's not real. But like, I know that it is. I know that it probably is. But in my brain, I'm like, I can't even tell the difference looking at it. How are you telling the difference hearing it? I'd be like, this is
one of those moments
out of
order. I realised that I grew up in Kent around farms and around like farming. And so there's little bits of knowledge about that and things. I'm just like, yeah, that's just a thing. Like it's a farming thing.
Up
like I
15
wasn't
minutes
like,
outside a big city.
Right. Like I grew up in Kent amid fields. So
farms were like a school trip away that you'd go to for a day. So no, Joe, I don't know the sound of a rustling hop or moisture levels on a flower. I'm like, that's been picked for who knows how long. I don't have a green thumb, so that's extra witchcraft for me. Where I'm like, that's not real.
This is what you're doing. Like hop farmers have been doing this a long time. They're very clever. Just like our brewers are very clever, hop farmers are very clever.
It's impressive.
So that they are, you know, when they're breeding them, they're trying to make sure that they are agronomically sound, that they will grow really well, that they'll get the yield out, be that, you know, the amount of cones that you get. Because, you know, the more cones you've got, the more chance you've got of getting all the lupulin and the oils and the acids that you need, which are measured. And like there's, again, like it's grown every year. If the right amount isn't grown, like that's what's grown is grown. If that's not enough for what people want, what are you going to do? You can't magically make more. You got to wait until it grows again the next year. So top tip, if there is a hop that you want, brewers, make sure you got it on contract, because then that tells the farmers how much, like we know how much to buy. The farmers then know how much to grow. Some places we do have surplus because we've grown too much and then people didn't want it.
I know. I think that's kind of when you get like fad hops that people are, oh, this will be great, and everyone's all over it for a minute.
There is currently a surplus of Citra.
Oh, that's wild. Is it just because people have overgrown because it's so popular? They've mistaken. I mean, we're also fair amount is.
Dr. Doom Gloom is still here. She hasn't gone yet.
She's not left the scene.
Obviously, we are at a point where people are buying less beer. We are at a point where breweries are closing. So if those breweries that have closed had contracts of particular hops, they're not being used.
I guess we've moved on from that point where people would put some breweries, I can only speak for the UK, but like some breweries, I think especially in COVID, we've talked about this before, I think like in COVID, because nobody else really had anything to, I say this very lightly, like people, I think drinking went up when everyone was at home and they were like, well, I can do because I'm not going anywhere, like it's fine. So I think like you'd see that when you could start going back into the actual brewing, like back into breweries to brew, like that started a trend because of that boom of people like drinking more, that they then were like releasing more frequently. So like you'd end up having, you know, 3 new releases a week from some breweries. Sometimes more, sometimes slightly less frequently, sometimes more. Like you'd have like 4 beers a week, but then it would change every week. There was no core ranges, there wasn't anything like that. So I can imagine that with changes in economical statuses and, you know, changes within the government that's, you know, limiting things, and, you know, Dr. Doom and Gloom hat on there, like I can see how people have had to cut back, and therefore like contracts have had to probably, even on something that's wild, that's very interesting, that even on a hop that's like the most popular, it's like, yeah, no, it's not even just on a fad hop, that is a tried and true one.
Like we've, you know, you've seen it where some of these breweries got that success during lockdown where people were buying more during that period, and now, you know, it's dropped off. That is the reason that some breweries have closed, because they expanded too quickly, and then, you know, the COVID bills came in where rent had been waived, or, you know, the small business loans were called in, and that's what has ended up with some of these breweries closing, because they grew quickly and then the demand dropped off.
It's
And
just
then they
interesting the
couldn't
knock-on
produce and
impact.
continue to, the knock-on impact of that has been
You don't think
severe,
about
and that's
that.
why
You
we're
think
losing breweries.
we think about the knock-on impact to the people that worked at the breweries, and the loss within like the community of people that really love that brewery, and like within that local community of where they operated. Like that's what you think the knock-on impact is. Like what you don't think, what I never think of until probably right this minute is like a brewery closes, the knock-on impact on their like hop supplier that maybe they've contracted with, and now they're like, yeah, no, we're not. Like you don't think about the suppliers in the background on that level. You just think about the immediate people that are impacted in terms of job loss.
All of their supply chain is then affected by that. Like, you know, they're not buying hops anymore. They're not buying malt anymore. They're not buying yeast anymore. They're not buying bottles and kegs and cans. You know, all of that. They're not buying the cleaning supplies or the different chemicals and things they used. All of that.
That is Dr. Doom and Gloom. Moving away from the Dr. Doom and Gloom when we go back to hop growing.
Also, with hops, they might also, in these breeding programs, which is what we were originally talking about, they will also be breeding to see if these hops have disease and pest resilience, because, as you know, we are wanting to use less and less chemicals. There are rulings coming in place, especially in the EU, where they're trying to limit the amount of chemicals and things that are used on agronomical products. So you have to find different ways of dealing with diseases and pests that aren't chemical based. One I heard about was where they would put a certain type of bug on the plants that didn't harm hops, but got rid of the bugs that did harm hops. And I can't remember which one it was, but like you could, and like, so there would be like one that combated the other.
I just picture like Godzilla versus King Kong or something like that, and they're like if you would like zoom in really close, it's like these two tiny bugs, but like zoomed in, there's like they're huge and they're just like absolutely fighting the crap out of each other. Then you zoom out and it's just like normal hop plant,
just hops waving in the breeze.
So hops waving in the breeze until you zoom in on that and it's like literally destruction.
These hop breeders are also looking for the hops that they create to maintain good storage stability. So, you know, these hops that we have here are from crop 2024. So they were harvested in 2024. If you keep them in a fridge, they are still, you know, they're still reasonable to use. Like you can use, and this is something that I think people don't realize, is that, you know, sometimes, again, agronomical product potentially different each year. So, you know, hop suppliers do know the expected profile of a hop, and so they will blend lots together to make sure that there is consistency with what brewers want from hops, from particular hop varieties, because obviously as drinkers, we want, if we're buying this like a core range beer or a beer that we know the flavour of, we expect it to be a certain way. This is an agronomical product. It will be different because it's grown differently every year, but we're still expecting the same flavours. So, you know, brewers either have to fiddle with their recipes to get it the same, or hop suppliers will try and balance out and get the profile the same. And you can do that by blending what we call lots of hops. So you'll have different bales from maybe different farms or from different fields, and they get blended together to make the right, air quotes, profile. And then those can be stored. And so you want good storage stability so that the levels of oils, lupulin, acids are stable while it's stored, so they don't fluctuate and degrade very quickly over time.
It's very interesting about that, because I think until we had the chat at Mirakai, when you mentioned about like obviously every year it changes, like that's something that it seems really obvious when you know, but you don't ever think about it, because I think like it's a lot easier to think about how, you know, honey, like when we've talked about honey before, right, about how you could go to the same exact, like the same hive of producing honey, you could get completely different tastes depending on like each year.
Yeah.
And it's not even that, it's like each year what field
been in,
like
what
all of that. And
flowers
it's not to say
they've
like
gathered pollen
completely
from.
different, but different profiles in general, just because they could even go to the same area, but things are different every year.
One
But it's
field could
weird
be
that
different from another.
but I think we think about it like we grow fruits and vegetables, where within reason, like that fruit or vegetable is always going to taste the same, basically, when you grow it, no matter, you know, where you've grown it. Like there's an expectation of what it tastes like. And I think we kind of think the same thing subconsciously. Like I don't think it's a thing you think about.
Like if you get an apple, like you can get two green apples, they don't necessarily taste exactly the same. One might be slightly more sour, one might be slightly more sweet. Like, you know, even then, like it's not the exact same flavour every time you eat it.
I think like apples are a weird anomaly like that though. But I think like if you were to say like a cucumber, like I would say that for the most part, there's not a noticeable difference whether I got a cucumber from A field or cucumber from B field. And I think that like it's never a thing we think about when it comes to like different hops being grown. We could get into a whole separate, we should get into a whole separate conversation, not today, on like the terroir of hops and stuff, because that's like really interesting as well. I had a conversation with Ruth about that, and I was like, that's incredibly interesting as well. Same thing with like grapes, when you talk about like terroir and that kind of stuff. I don't think it's a conscious thing that you think about how hops would be different. You just come to expect that, like, well, this is the profile of this hop, and therefore just like you grow a cucumber in field A or B and it tastes the same, hop grown in field A or B, it will come out the same. But it's really interesting the fact that you're just like, yeah, no, that's not always the case. Because I never even thought about that until you said that.
And actually, I'll talk about it when we get to hop selection, but actually some breweries are looking for particular characteristics in certain varieties, because they've had this hop and they look for this characteristic in it. It might not be like the standard, air quotes, what everyone wants of this. Like Citra is a good one, right? So, you know, we all think we know what Citra is. Like it should be citrus and it should have a bit of lemon and blah blah. There are, you know, some breweries are looking for a little bit more elderflower character in their Citra. Some I've heard want like a little undertone of strawberry. And like, so they will go and they will select the hops and find the ones that hit the profile that they want, and then they take that exact lot and use it in their, or those exact lots and use those in their beer, and they won't use any others because it doesn't fit the profile that they want.
It's just really interesting because I think it just comes into question of like when you're brewing the same recipe, say you've got like a core range beer that's like, let's just say you do a core range single hopped beer, like obviously you probably won't brew something that's got a noticeably different taste regardless, but like realistically you could get 1 year to another year, you could get hops that are slightly different, that maybe they do impact your taste. But that is just really interesting to think about, because
you know, you're not going to get a random flavor that you've never had before,
no.
necessarily, but there can be there can be differences. There just can.
Interesting. And then in terms of like growing, again, another potential silly question, like you can obviously grow hops as an individual, like you don't have to be a hop farmer to grow hops. Like I've known people have grown hops at home, then they've donated it to breweries as part of a program and stuff like that. But like, how many, I mean, because you might not know the answer to this, but like as a home brewer yourself, like you homebrew quite a bit, would you say that you like, how much would you have to grow at home to be able to have, just to put in perspective of what you're talking about when growing, to like do a homebrew beer? Could you get away with growing at home?
It depends on what beer you're going to make, and it depends on, like, the first year of growing a hop, you don't get a very big yield. Like it builds up over time. So the first year you're not going to get a very lot, and then it will gradually grow and you'll get more and more. You can, from a single hop vine, you can get enough to brew with. It just depends on the variety and what kind of beer you're making, how hoppy you want it to be, and how old that plant is. I was going to go into how like the development of a hop plant in a moment. So I'll come back. We'll circle back
put a pin
to
in that.
in a
We're
minute.
going to put a pin in it.
But there are breeding programs around the world. So the major ones are in the United States, obviously. So we keep talking about HBC varieties. So those are from the Hop Breeding Company in the US. There is.
I don't think I ever realised that's what it stood for.
Yep, Hop Breeding Company.
I never asked the question. I just thought that's just what it is.
There are public varieties. So the HBC program is a partnership between John I. Haas and Yakima Chief Ranches, and they do it together. And I'll talk a little bit more about HBC because that is relevant to Dolcita shortly. But that they work together to develop hop varieties, and then they are what's called proprietary to John O'Haas and Yakima Chief Ranches. So it can be trademarked, and then they can dictate who can grow it and who can't. There are then what they call public varieties, which are developed, and anybody can grow those. And then hop farms will also develop their own varieties. But breeding programs are specifically set up. Like there's the big ones in the United States. There is one in Germany, which you might have heard me talk about in the Hallertau, which is called the Society for Hop Research. Yeah. That is hop scientists, farmers, breweries, hop companies have all got together, are all helping those scientists to develop hop varieties, particularly with the European varieties, because some of those are older. They are looking for ones to replace the ones that might die out.
Was that like Europe. Tango? Would Tango be one of those?
So Tango's a new one. Yeah, Tango is one of the newer ones. That was one of the experiments to try and replace something like Hallertau, more like Hallertau. SARS, they haven't found anything that works yet for SARS. I believe there are projects, programs in the Czech Republic looking at something, because SARS is not doing well. So there must be someone looking at that. They haven't really found anything that matches that very well. Tango was to try and replace some of the European varieties. It's quite, it was a bit too fruity. When we say fruity, curb your enthusiasm. Like, it's not going to be fruity like an American or Australian or a New Zealand hop. Like fruity, fruity for a lager.
I quite liked the beers I've had with Tango.
Yeah, it's not,
from what I understood, it was because it was more resilient. So like with climate change, it was because it was more. Yeah, it's a climate resilient one, which is what was the benefit of that one, which I thought was really interesting.
And it's got deeper roots, so it manages to get more water when there's difficulty with water. They have since released a second hop that was released last September, I want to say, called Huel Classic. And that is can be used as a replacement for some of the Hallertau hops, like Hallertau Mittelfrüh, and it was tested. So part of what these breeding programs do, they don't just grow it and smell it when it's growing, they also brew with it and then give it to brewers to brew with. And that Hallertau Classic was tested with breweries like Augustina and Erdinger, and they replaced their usual hops with it, and they found no flavour difference. So that is why that one became commercialised, because like well-known breweries who have very clean, specific flavour profiles that are very well known had used it and said, yeah, this works just as well as some of the older ones. So, it is quite important for brewers to get their hands on these and test them as well. So there's one in Germany. There's the ones in the United States. We do have them over here in the UK. They are focused on hops that will go in like that. Well, traditionally they have looked at getting hops that are classically for British styles, but I think there's definitely some appetite for bigger flavour it's, that's an interesting thing to try and do with British hops, because traditionally they've not been, big fruity flavors.
I was going to say, is it because if you wanted those big fruity flavors,
A
you'd
little
probably
bit.
get them from somewhere else potentially?
Yeah, a little bit. And also, like, so there's this one hop, it's the British hop that I always talk about, which I really love, is called Ernest, and it gives like a really kind of apricot-y flavor. But so that was originally found in the 50s or the 70s. I can't remember which one, but it was shelved then because they were like, oh no, that's too fruity, we don't want that.
Again, though,
And
like
now it's
fruity being not
right, they're
like, we're not talking
we
like
don't
big
want
bold
that.
fruit.
Give us the earthy, spicy ones. Like, what are you doing? And so that got shelved for a little bit, and then it got brought back because people have then developed this palate for fruitier beer. So that has come out. So it does depend on what the focus at the time is when they're developing these hops, as to whether they are culled or whether they're actually used. So some of that research happens at a place called Y College, and the University of Kent does a lot of work on it as well. And Charles Fareham is doing a lot of work to help create newer English hops. In Australia, Hops Products Australia has a breeding program. That's where Luna has come from. It's where Galaxy, Eclipse, Enigma all came from. So they were all developed by Hops Products Australia. And then also in New Zealand, they have breeding programs that focus on bold fruit-driven aromas, and companies like NZ Hops, Clayton Hops, and Clayton Hops actually works with the Bioeconomy Science Institute to develop theirs. So there's a lot, like it's a bit of growers, bit of science, like they all work together to create all these different hops that we can use.
Do you ever envision there being a point in time, just on your opinion, from your knowledge of hop things, where they've gone, actually, we've found this hop which is more resilient, that it can work in favor of this other more classic hop, and maybe there's a partial not necessarily like almost a helping hand for that hop to go into extinction? Because do you ever see a point in time where people go, actually that's really tricky to grow and I can get the same flavors from this? Or do you think that a lot of the research is more for if someday we cannot grow it, we know that this will also tick a box?
I think so. I think the thing is, if there are very well-known beers that are made with that hop, it will be difficult to not grow it, because there will be a demand for it. So it's all about demand, right? Because this is it's a product that people are selling. So you've got to have demand. If the demand drops off, then that's when growers will cut back on how much they grow. But that's also why these ones are being created, because there is a demand for this flavor profile, or for the hops to do this thing. And if the yield isn't then there, and then the crop amount isn't there to give to brewers, we've got to find something to fill it in. One of the things that I will say about new hops is that, yes, craft brewers really like to, do like to experiment, but also some brewers are a bit resistant to change. Like, if you've got a recipe that's working and it sells really great beer and people really love it, why would you change what you're putting in it? Why are you why it's not broke, don't fix it.
It's unless you have to kind of thing,
you have
isn't
to,
it?
right? So there is a bit of there's I've been talking about this a lot lately, but there's like this graph that they show you in about new things, right? So you've got, like, it kind of starts at the bottom of the hump, and it's like the innovators, and as it starts to go up, like innovative people that are a bit more risky, they'll try it, and you're going higher up. And then people go, oh, that sounds interesting. So then you kind of get to the top of the hill of the hump, and more and more people are taking it on, and then you start to come down the other side where it's just normal then, and everyone's just using it. And then, like, the really behind people are like, oh, everyone's using that, I should probably use it.
I have to.
Right, yeah. I guess I have to. And so you've got to get to that point where everybody's using it and they've changed their mind. But with a lot of these new varieties, new products, we're still on the up trajectory where people are like, oh, that's a bit too new. I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I want to change my ways and do that. Advice that hop companies give is that as these things, we are seeing climate changes affecting these products. So to take risk out of your business, because if you stick with this one thing and you never change that, but you know that there is a risk that it is going to die out, you are putting risk into your business because that ingredient might not be available anymore. If it's something that you really want, contract it. Growers know that it's wanted, so they'll grow it. But also, if it is a variety that is at risk, then you could start very carefully to switch it out for a little bit of something else and just gradually change it. Don't let your customers know, because if they are like how many pubs have you been in and it's like, oh, it's not as good as it used to be. Oh, this beer's, this one thing. Oh, they changed the branding on the beer. It's not as good as it used to be. Font's different on the on the pump clip. Oh, I don't think there's something wrong with that beer. It's not what it used to be. You don't want your customers to realise that you're changing it. But like, if you can gradually keep your flavour profile the same, but gradually by testing out a little bit more. Like if it's a brand new beer, you can have at it with something new. But if you've got something like a consistent core range product, you've got to kind of, if you've got hops in it that are at risk, you've got to very carefully change it. And
when
you
you're
should do
that brand
early.
awareness, isn't it?
Brand awareness, like you need to do that early so that you've got long enough time to experiment and get it right.
Well, that's it. Because if you just decide late in the game, shit, I can't get my hands on this anymore, I guess I have to change it over. Like, you're not going to have time to work out what that optimal recipe tweak is, are you? But yeah, that's it is really interesting to kind of think about it in that light as well, because I think some people are afraid of that change, especially when it's a newer hop. And like, I do wonder how much of, for some people, like how much they actually do notice a difference and how much of that is a perceived difference because they know that it's not what, like, if you're making a core range beer that you've been making with your eyes closed for 3 years, like, it like the back of your hand, and then you're now trying to do it with a hop that they're saying is similar, but let's just say this is a hop you really love and feel passionate about, and you brew with it all the time. You could, make your recipes, like I said, eyes closed. You've been doing it for years. And then suddenly they're like, oh, you might want to try this. This is what we're thinking of replacing it. I feel like naturally there's going to be that bias there, that unconscious bias where you're like,
of course.
Oh, it's not going to be the same as what I know and love. And then you almost look for the faults instead of coming in, like, instead of doing a blind test to somebody that's like one of your most loyal customers, to be like, do you notice the difference between these two hops? Or a
sensory panel, like if you've got a sensory panel that know your beers, like you've got to do trials. This is the thing with brewing, you have to do trials and try it out, and that can take time, so you need to think about that early. So do you want to hear a little bit about how hop breeding actually works?
Yes, that sounds spicy and dicey. I'm in.
I've talked about this before when we've talked about hop harvest and stuff like that, and when we've gone and visited particularly the Society for Hop Research, we go and see a lot about it there when I visit there. But so a new hop variety in these breeding programs, they'll take like 2 parent plants and do what they call a cross. So they'll pollinate it, and they'll take particular 2 parents that they know have got particular traits, and they'll cross them and see what happens. And so there'll be lots of little seedlings from that cross, and so they get planted up, and then they see, this is a point where they might put pests there, put diseases there, see what survives. Because if the seedlings can't survive, then the plant's not going to survive. So that'll cut a whole chunk out. And then the smaller plants are trained and they're grown up over time. And then they'll see how it goes in a greenhouse, and then they'll see how it goes on like an experiment field. And so over like several years, they'll build it up and build it up, and then it'll get to a point where they've got enough cones, and then they can smell the cones, and they can tell, like, does that give us what we want? Like, is it, especially when we're looking at aroma hops, is that giving us something unique, something interesting that we haven't seen before? While also watching how it grows to check whether it's agronomically sound. And so then, the ones that are good, they'll keep going with. Once they've got, once they're happy with how it grows, they'll then take those cones and start to brew with them. So some places like the HBC program, they have pilot kits, and they'll brew with them themselves first to see whether it comes out, because what it smells like in the field can be very different from what it is when you actually put it into beer. So they'll test it, and if that's still good, then they'll give it to brewers and see what they can do with it. And I think that's always quite interesting, because it obviously depends on how they give them to brewers, because sometimes they might be like, use this, brew this with it. But sometimes you can, like, if you just give it to a brewer and go, like, do something with that. Like, that could be, brewers will
as
experiment.
in like no notes, not even like expected tasting notes.
They probably do,
or because I think it'd be more interesting to just be like, here you go, brew a single hop.
I think it depends on, it will depend on the brewer and whether they want that information, or like, some brewers really love experimenting, so you can just be like, here's this thing, see what you can do with it. And actually that's quite a nice co-creation thing, where you give them this hop, and you're like, see what you think of it, and then you get feedback. And so there'll be sensory panels, not just from the growers, but they'll have teams that do this sensory work that are trained on it. They'll get brewers involved to also do the sensory as well as brew with it and test it all out. And that will take many years. Usually before it's like even got to a point. And even at that point, like, then you could have it where you're like, this is smelling great, it's brewing great, and then you could have a year where the yield is terrible because something has happened, and it's like, actually that's not as good anymore, so we're going to rip it all out and we'll start again. And this is the decisions that these breeding companies need to make. So it'll get to that point, and you will see these hops on the cans of the beer that you're drinking where it's a number, it's not a name. And it's probably, if you're seeing it on a can that you're drinking as a drinker, it's probably doing quite well, because brewers have got it and they are putting it on the can. There was I can't remember which one it was. There was I think it was Talus. Actually, when Talus came out, brewers had been using that for a while, and people didn't know because they just hadn't listed it on the can. And then it was like, oh, and so where sometimes when it gets its name, everyone's like, this is new. It might have not been new into brewing, actually. Like, they could have been brewing with it for a few years, but it has been decided that this grows really well, it brews really well, it'll be something that we need, be that a new unique flavour and aroma, a higher yield, more pest resilient, disease resilient, climate resilient, whatever niche that fills. It's been decided that this is the one, this works, we're happy with it, brewers are happy with it, we're going to properly name it. And that can be 10 to 12 years of work before it gets to that point.
Even just the growing, like that basic level of, like, when you were saying, like, okay, you cross and then you grow it and you see if it like happens, and then like even just kind of getting to that point where it's like grown enough where you could go, okay, we're happy with this, like, let's just keep growing it. Like, the amount of time we can get enough off of it to be like, cool, now we can like properly make a beer with it. And like that, I feel like that in itself probably takes quite a long time. And then like it makes me feel really sad that you could be doing that for some of them and take like years and then just be like, no, it didn't really work out as we thought, so
I mean, you were saying go ahead with it. So HBC 638, you were like, I assume that this is fairly new, and I'm like, actually I think that one's been around for quite a while, but they're still playing with it, so they're not quite happy with it yet. And I remember seeing it at a rub and sniff back in 2022, and it was still that. So
Yeah, I meant
We're
more
4
new.
years down the line,
I meant
you
more
know?
like my beer was new in the sense of like it still didn't have it. It's like it still
Yeah.
didn't have a name because
Yeah.
it still didn't have a name because this only came out in October or whenever it was, that it still didn't have a name because
Yeah.
the beer itself was new. But yeah, like I didn't look into like actually how long it's been on the market, which is like it is really interesting because I do feel like there's been ones that I've seen. Like I just feel like there'll be one that I've like seen that I'm like, oh, what's that? And then like I never see anything announced that's
You might
like
never see it again. Yeah. It
yeah
might just be gone.
yeah
You might just
it's
scrub it out.
it is really interesting, and then it's like kind of sad because you're just like how much time, effort, and years are put into something that they're then like
So
yeah
Crush,
no
Crush was commercialized in 2024. And I remember being in a field in 2023 and they were like, yeah, we don't know about this one. Like, we thought it was really good. We think we might get rid of it though.
and it's
And then
Crush
the
is
next
huge,
year,
can you imagine?
and then the next year they were like, no, actually it's all right. Like, there was a wobble there with Crush that they thought they were going to get rid of it, and because it wasn't as agronomically sound as they thought it was going to be, because it had a bit of wobble that year. And then it was commercialized the next year. So, you know, it like some of this work can go on for ages. There's definitely some like numbers that have been kicking around for years. And they just kind of keep trying a little bit and trying a little bit and let's try it now. And like with Ernest, when it first came out, they were like, we don't want this. And now they do. So it could be that it just kind of sits in the background.
Move, though, like Crush is huge. And like, can you imagine someone's just like, yeah, I feel like I see so many beers on a regular basis now that use Crush. And I just feel like I can't even imagine that somebody was there at one point in time going like, yeah, it's good, but like, maybe not. Because of how popular it's ended up. It's just really interesting is all. But just to take a step back, for anyone that doesn't know, do you want to explain what a pilot kit is? In case someone's new and doesn't know as much about what a pilot kit is. New.
A pilot kit is a tiny brewery. And so you make, like, it's almost like, depending on the size of the brewery, it might be a homebrew kit. So it's a very small scale. So you can, and also they might necessarily have a lot of hop to use. So they've got to make a small amount of beer to be able to test it out. So, certain breweries will have pilot kits. It is a smaller version of a full-size brewing kit so that you can do trials of brewing. There you go. Do you want to hear a little bit more about the hop breeding company? Because I keep talking about HBC this and HBC that.
It genuinely, I can't even believe it didn't click until you just said it now. I'm like, yeah,
the hop breeding company, HBC. So you'll have seen all of these hops. They're HBC, bloody number. They have come from this breeding program in the US called the hop breeding company. It is a joint venture that was founded in 2003 by Yakima Chief Ranches and John O'Haas. Their mission is to develop hop varieties that combine pest resistance, disease resistance, strong agronomic performance, and distinct sensory character for brewing. And hops that you might not know have come out of the HBC program are Citra. It's one of their most successful ones. Mosaic, Sabro, Equinox. I hate Equinox. It tastes like green peppers. I don't like it, but lots of people like it. Fine, you can drink. I'm the neutral. Equinox in.
I'm neutral on it.
Talus, Laurel, and Crush, and now since August 2025, Dolcita, which was previously HBC 1019. Their hops tend to have a huge influence on modern craft beer styles, particularly IPAs.
I'm not shocked.
Yeah. So we did manage to find a beer with Dolcita in on the label. It is still HBC 1019. And we have Wave Rider from Elusive. It's also got Mosaic in it. I was about to say the flavour profile that's on the can, but do you want to taste it and tell me what you can taste first before I put ideas in your head?
I think I already have the ideas though. That's the problem. Is like because we literally
we've been talking about it.
We've literally looked at this hop before.
Yeah,
a week ago. The ideas are already in my head.
Drink the beer and tell me what you're getting from it.
Okay. I will also say, full disclosure, we bought this because we were going to do this similar
Because we were going to
episode.
talk about this.
But we just didn't get a chance to actually do it until now. So in true A Woman's Brew fashion, it is
Classic
like
us.
just slightly past its best before date, but it still tastes good. But this is the thing, is I don't know if what
Just
I'm
tell
tasting.
me what you're getting.
I do get a bit of coconut.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like some of what I'm getting is because of things we've talked about, what I know, and I want to say that there's other flavors, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm really tasting it or not. I just get a lot of coconut.
Yeah, so the can says it adds notes of coconut and tropical fruit. So that may be because it's paired with mosaic, and it might be how they brewed
But
this.
then off the back end, I get like peach rings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's coconut immediately, and then when I sit there for a minute and don't drink anything, it's peach rings off the back end.
So the primary descriptors of Dolcita in beer is usually peach rings, caramelized pineapple, like in a tropical daiquiri.
I can see that.
Orange creamsicle, and maybe a little bit of coconut. So that's why it was picked, because it's got such interesting flavors. Like you'll see what we call rose charts. Trying to find a picture of the rose chart so I can show you on the screen. So if you've ever seen one of these diagrams, so it's a circle and then there's like points coming off of it going to different flavors around a wheel. That's called a rose chart. And the size of that, sometimes it's a point, sometimes it's like a pie piece that's going out towards the edge of the circle. The bigger the pie piece, the stronger that flavor attribute is. And for Dolcita, sweet fruits is the highest, which is your tropical fruits, mango, pineapple, things like that. There's a little bit of vegetable, a little bit of herbal, green fruits, a little bit of berry. Cream caramel is on there, which you normally wouldn't expect in hops, but that is, you get a little bit of that kind of coconut cream, orange creamsicle, like that creaminess comes under cream caramel.
Interesting. I was thinking weird. I was like, what is cream caramel? Yeah, like so creamed corn, but like not.
No. So it's like a creaminess, maybe a bit of caramelness. So like that caramelized pineapple, that kind of caramelly bit is coming in the cream caramel. So like when you think orange creamsicle, that comes in under that cream caramel section. So that's Dolcita, how it has been described. It was developed by the Hop Breeding Company, and it originated from a 2016 cross between two developmental lines in the HBC program. So sometimes you'll see, its mother was Cascade, its mother was Citra. This came from two developmental lines, so they weren't commercialized ones at all. It's from two ones that are being developed. The name originates from dolce, which is Italian for sweet, and the Spanish diminutive ita, Dolcita, which gives the a meaning similar to little sweetie or sweetheart.
I love that.
And they
really like that.
Right, they feel that the name reflects the hop's approachable, expressive flavour character.
I didn't know that when we talked about Dolcita before.
I know, I didn't tell you that.
Like, I know dolce, but then when you throw in ita, that's really cute.
Dolcita. Something that I found out while I was doing a little bit more research that I thought was really interesting, that Dolcita is also one of the first... So they do all this, this rub and sniff and this sensory stuff where it's a person or a group of people rubbing and sniffing and deciding. But Dolcita was one of the first hops to go through chemical analysis.
Oh.
And what they found from that is also one of the reasons why it moved through the development process, was it has a moderately high to high proportion of geraniol. These words are really difficult to say. So there's terpenes. So things like myrcene and things like that. There's terpenes, and then there's what are considered survivables, and they are usually an IOL ending. So there's geraniol, lunilol, all of these different chemicals. And geraniol, that has a moderately high to high proportion, and that makes it really versatile because it can be used at the beginning of the boil, but it can also be used at the end, and that the flavor profile will continue through wherever you use it. It also has a high amount of soluble esters, which gives the peachy aroma, and it has fairly low thiols. And it's got so there's a lot of talk about thiols at the minute.
Yep.
And this one has fairly low thiols that produce the savoury notes. So there's less chance of the savoury flavours like catty or garlicky coming from your use of this hop. So that is another reason why it was moved forward, because it's easier to use. You're not going to end up with like over hopping and ending up with these catty and garlicky and oniony flavours, which you can do. I also found a really interesting article on Beervana about Dolcita, which I will share in the show notes. But I've already said that, a hop development can be between 10 and 12 years minimum. Like that's kind of average, like it could be longer. Dolcita was developed in 9 years.
That's quick.
So it's actually a really quick development. And this article from Beervana had a couple of quotes, and it had one from Michael Ferguson, who is the director of hop breeding at John I. Haas for HBC, and Ryan Christian, who is the VP of research for Yakima Chief Ranches for their part of the hop breeding company. And Michael said, from the moment I first encountered Dolcita, its incredibly vibrant aroma leaked out from thousands of other hybrids. And when we brewed with it, the flavour matched the aroma, which is really important. In my 25 years of breeding, true winners are rare, but Dolcita was unmistakable, which is why it's now one of the quickest cross-to-market hops we've ever had. And Ryan said, it's a very exciting aromatic hop. We always include samples of it, of what was 1019 in our sensory and brewing trials, and it's always phenomenally likable. The hedonic ratings, the uniqueness ratings, it's always top of the charts. So that like hedonic ratings and uniqueness ratings are where they have the sensory panels. And so, do you think that this hop is unique? Do you like hedonic? Is it, do you like it? How much do you like it? How great is it? How do you feel about it? Those are ratings that are done in the sensory panels. So I thought that was really interesting.
It is really interesting.
What do you think of it?
I really like it, but I think I've had another one that's had it in. Like I said, when you were asking me about the flavours, I'm like, because we did the rub and sniff before, we specifically talked about like peach ring flavour and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting some of that because like I'm
making it up in your head.
Not making it up in my head per se, but yeah. Like I'm looking for that.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think I expected there to be as much coconut, like immediate coconut.
So I've only recently started getting coconut from it. In fact, a couple of years ago when I first smelt it, I got a lot of like ribena, so blackcurrant from it.
Interesting.
And now like a couple of years down the line, I am getting more of that peach ring from it. And I've recently had a couple of beers where I get a bit of that coconut. This is the most coconut one that I've had.
Yeah, it's just a surprising amount of coconut. Like, not in a bad way, I like coconut.
No, it's nice, yeah.
I really like coconut. So to me, it's not a problem. You're talking to like a person that likes Sabro and likes Talus and likes all those ones. It was just because I think because I spent so much time when we've had conversations about it, talking about like peach ring and that flavour of thing, that I just didn't expect there to be so much coconut in the taste. But I can't remember what I had, because I did have one recently that had Dolcita, as named as Dolcita, not 1019. This was very recent, but I can't remember what it was or what the actual taste was, because I didn't, at that point in time, I hadn't looked into it to be like, oh, what? Like, I was out and about in a social setting, so I wasn't like, if I was at
Analysing
home and I
it.
was drinking this at home, I'd be like, you know, like I did with the HPC 638, I'm like, oh, let me look that up because I want to know what that tastes like. If I'm out in a socializing situation and I go, oh, that's an interesting hop, it's an experimental hop, I want to try that, like that's interesting. Depending on that situation, I may or may not then go and be like, oh, let me look that up. And in the situation that I know I was in, I know where I was, it was not that situation where I was like, let me sit on my phone and look at that.
Yeah.
So I can't even remember, and I don't think I had anything to compare it to. So it's just like in my brain, all that sticks out is peach ring. So then when I tasted this and I'm like, oh my God, it's like immediately coconut, just not what I was expecting. But then again, obviously, because you said coconut when you were talking anyways, but it's really nice. I enjoy it. The smell of the hops is so good as well.
As we have our little silver packets of fun things, shall we open it and see how it smells?
It is like my favourite. I love it.
I can walk the listeners through how you do a hop rub and sniff in case they've never done one.
Now's probably the time you want to switch to video. I'm sorry if you don't want to look at our mugs. Now is probably the time that you want to switch to video.
There's little green gems in my bag.
Find the point of which it's actually sealed. Like, how do I open you? And it would actually be really good for anyone that does manage to get like some type of packets. Because I know, like, I've gone places home brewing, like I've not gone to home brewing clubs. I know, like, at home brewing clubs this might happen, or I've been in other spaces where it's been like a beer event and they've had like hot packets to give away and stuff. If you open it and you start looking at it, so just what it looks like in the camera.
Yep.
Looks like, the best way I can describe it for anyone that doesn't know what a hot pellet looks like is like pet food, like hamster food, or like bunny food. But even like, yeah, it is very green. But even then, like, you can get some like bunny pellets that are like more green. But for anyone that maybe like comes across them, how do you preserve them once you open? I say
once you've opened it, like you can then freeze it.
So like for us, we might want to put this in the freezer for another point in time.
Close this. You want to do it pretty quickly because once it's opened, it is open to the air and it can start to oxidize. But if you've like, these packets should also be like kept in, when they're sealed, you should still keep them in a fridge because you should keep them cold. But once you've opened it, you can put them in the freezer and then you can still take bits out. You don't need, like, if you're going to use them in brewing, you don't need to defrost them because they're so tiny that once they hit, like, it might take your boil temperature down a little bit, but the amount that you're using in a home brew, it won't matter. So these are what we call T90s. They're your standard kind of hot pellet that brewers use. Yeah. And so you can do a rub and sniff with these, or you can do them with cones. You're going to get cones more likely around harvest time. Generally, you're going to get pellets the rest of the year round. So you take a little handful and you want to put them right in the middle of your palm, and then you're going to squish them with your other palm. So you're going to kind of grind them between your palms. So that then, the heat of your hand then warms up the oils, and then you can smell them better. And so you squish them between your hands, and then you kind of bring this up to your nose and have a good whiff.
Taken so many. I'm like, oh,
you don't want too prepared. Many. I was going to do it with the heel of my hand.
It just smells really fruity.
I'm getting the peach and that kind of creamy, creamsicle.
Yeah, creamy peach ring.
Yeah.
Which is interesting though, because what I feel like when we were doing it the other day, I'm making a mess all over myself now.
Yeah, this will make a mess.
Because it does this. I'll do it.
This is why I use a mortar and pestle when I'm out at events so that it doesn't go everywhere.
When we were at the brew day, when we were like looking at these the first time, I found that I think it was even there was almost like people mentioned a bit of like like a resiny type smell, and then that got in my head. So I was like, I can smell it, but like it wasn't like it was more a subtle undertone.
Yeah,
and I don't think I get it as much now, but I don't know if it's because the power of persuasion.
I think there is a little bit because there's always like that kind of like that hop, air quotes, That's the myrcene.
But it's not the same. Like, I feel like I noticed it more in my hand, like when we were doing it as a group, when other people were saying, oh yeah, I smell that, I smell that. And I was like, yeah, I do. But it was like the peach ring smell was probably like the biggest smell, and then you had that like almost like very subtle resiny element underneath it. And I just don't feel like I even get it as much now, and it's just more peach ring.
And you might even smell it, but then it may not come out when you brew with it. Like, this is why they have to do all these different trials with it. So again,
I was saying it would be a really good Vermont style IPA. I feel like this would crush hat for sure, just based on the aromas.
Yeah, because like I have that like you with that like little bit of like caramelly malt, like you get like that real emphasize the caramelized pineapple elements.
Just sneezing as I get it up my nose.
I wanted when I was getting like blackcurrant from this early on, I wanted someone to do a stout with it and see what they got. Like, it might really make like a really good tropical stout.
I think it would be, or like a white stout. What if you did like a white stout with it? I don't know. I always just think like I want to see people make hops, like make beers when they use hops that are not traditionally for that style, or like flavor profiles of those hops that don't typically fit that type of beer. Like, that's the kind of stuff that if you told me you were going to make like you said a tropical IPA and you're going to use like a really fruity hop, I'd be like, yeah, I'd try that, just because on paper it shouldn't work, and I'm like, I just want to know what it's going to taste like. I've made a mess in my hand.
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, so brewers like to go to hop selection. So when harvest is happening, brewers like to go to the harvest and rub and sniff the different lots and select their hops, which you can do. Everyone does things in their own way. The one thing about hop selection is that you have then selected that particular lot, and if something goes wrong with that lot, too bad, that's the one you've picked. You're kind of locked in, so it's a little bit, it can be a little bit risky.
I didn't realize that was a thing until you told me. I just thought people would go to hop selection just for a bit of fun to learn about the hops.
No,
not learn about the hops, but like I didn't realize. I didn't fully realize that it's like, oh, they're going because that is the lot of what they are contracting.
Yeah,
I didn't think about it in that regard. I thought it was like, yeah, they're going and it's like a fun experience. They'll be like, oh yeah, no, that's good, we want these hops. But like, I didn't understand the full repercussions of that until you kind of mentioned about the risks and stuff of like, yeah, that's great, but when you are locked into that, this is what comes with it.
Yeah, so it like, I mean, some breweries want that because like they're looking for a particular profile from that hop variety, because that's what they've built their well-known beers on. Big breweries, but like there's a certain like minimum order quantity to be able to do selection like that. Like, you've got to take like a lot to go in and say, I want this one, this one, this one.
Presumably it's over a set period of time, I'm guessing, where it's like so you would do it a course of a year or something like that.
It's a year, yeah. So those are your hops for the year. I think it's like tonnage, like it's not a little amount, like it's a lot. But some of these big breweries are using, that are shifting a lot of beer, are using that amount of hops. So they will come along and they'll be taken in, and they'll have said what varieties they want to see, and those varieties will be put out on the table for them, and they will but it'll be one variety at a time, so you don't get kind of cross contamination of aroma. And then they'll rub them and sniff them, decide which lots they want, and then those are your lots. And once you've locked in your lots, that's what you get in. Like, if you don't like them next week, too bad. Those are your, those are your lots.
Could you go and just decide that actually none of them have the quality of what you're looking for, or do you have to pick something?
But you don't have to if you don't want it.
Or could you just go, none of these are really the one for me? Like, it's none of these were the thing I was looking for.
I mean, it will then depend at what point of the harvest you're there. Because like if you've come right at the end of harvest, then everything should be available.
Got you.
But also people will have come in before you and already taken lots.
Snatched them up.
Right, but there can be, like, it depends. If you come in the middle of harvest, there might still be lots that are yet to be harvested or haven't been processed yet, or like haven't been kilned yet, are not with the supplier yet for you to select from.
Yeah.
So it does depend. I mean, there are also products that companies are making where they're standardizing to the profile, like they've listened to what brewers want out of Citra, out of Mosaic, out of whatever, and so then they make sure that it is like that's the profile that the products hit each year. And I mean that's really useful, especially for smaller breweries, because if you want to make a consistent product, and you're making a core range, and you're putting this hop in it, you want it to be the same every time. So then you have that peace of mind that your supplier is providing. And there'll be guarantees and stuff in place that suppliers do to make sure they're getting you what you need. But there are specific products that are standardized so that you're getting the same quality over and over. And there are processes, like there are sensory and quality teams that it's their job to go through hundreds of lots of hops and check their sensory and make sure they're up to quality, and then put together the right ones that make these profiles. Like there's some people with some very sensitive noses out there that are doing these jobs, as well as all the science background where they're doing the chemical analysis as well. So
when people, like when brewers decide they're going to go on these selection sessions, like how far in advance do they say, this is what I'm interested in looking for? Like, do they turn up on the day? Walk us through what that's like if you were going to a selection, like what is it like? What do you need prep wise before you go? And then like when you go there, like,
I mean, I've already been asked when we will be in Yakima for selection. I in fact got asked like a few weeks ago, like when will we be in Yakima?
Contextually for people that, because I know when that normally falls.
So it's like
harvest
harvest time is September for Northern Hemisphere. So that's Europe, the US, and the UK. Harvest is September, starting to, it used to be kind of the end of August into September. It's kind of edging more September into October.
And US wise, you tend to go Pacific Northwest, don't you?
Yes, so we'll go to Yakima in Washington. There'll also be hops in Oregon and Idaho do some. There are a couple other places that are doing smaller amounts of hops now as well, but those are the main places.
Yep.
So we go to Yakima in Washington, which is actually where our US company is based. And so we go to them. And we used to go like the second week of September, and now we're going to start going the third week of September, because that's like they've been like, this is like the good time to come. There'll be a good range of lots for you to select from.
So are people asking you now because they know what they want, or is it that they're just like, I just want to get on the tour?
No, this is the company have asked me when I want to go. Yeah, so they're like, when are you coming? Because they need to start like thinking about schedules, because they've got to fit. They've got to schedule everybody in for a month to come and get their stuff. And like hops have pick windows, so there'll be Dolcita is an early crop, so it can be picked up. You don't want everything to need to be picked at the same time, because the farmers are already working sometimes through the night to pick these hops because when they're ready, you got to get them in, right? They are ready. You got to pick them. You got to kiln them so that they're ready to be processed and used. So you don't want everything coming in all at the same time, because you just wouldn't have the manpower to be able to do it. So there's some that are early, that have an early pick window, so they need to be picked early in the harvest. Some that are mid, some that are late. And so, if the hop variety that you want is an early pick window, then you can come earlier in the harvest. If you want something that's a late pick window, you might have to wait a little bit later to make sure that the lots are available for you to select from. With your hop supplier, you would work out a time, you would arrange an appointment to go to that. I can only talk about what John O'Haas does because that's the one that I've been to. But they, at their processing plant, they have like an area that is set up for selection. And there are appointments throughout the day. It's actually best time to do your selection is in the morning because your senses are better in the morning.
I imagine it's because you just haven't run into enough things to mess up your senses.
Right. And so we have a nice early appointment. We usually have to be there at like 8 a.m.
Would you have coffee first, yes or no?
I do have a coffee, but I have it at the hotel before we get there, and then drink a lot of water.
Would you be recommended like do not have a coffee too close to when you're there?
Yeah, don't, because that's obviously going to upset your senses if you've had a coffee very like just as you've got there. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend
be doing that.
Like, do what you want, but also think about how clear your senses are.
I think we already established of like I would definitely have the coffee like right up until I walked in the door.
Right.
I'd walk in, I would lose patience after like the first 5 batches, and I'd go, yeah, that one's cool. Let us go with that. And
so
that's
the thing.
Not a brewer.
Your appointment time then depends on how many varieties you need to check that you're selecting for. So you would have spoken to your hop supplier about how many different varieties you need to select from. When we go to select, we are selecting for the entire of Europe, like what the hops that are coming back to be used in Europe. So there's at least a minimum of 10 varieties that we'll look at. And then there can be anything from one lot to, I've had up to 14 lots of that variety from different farms that you then rub and sniff through and decide which ones you like. While you're there, like each, like they won't be mixed up. It'll be a table of that variety, and then they'll clear it all away. They've even got fans that extract the air so that you're not getting cross contamination of aroma. There's purple paper down because that makes the color of the hops easier to see. Because it depends on the variety. Sometimes, like, some breweries are really looking for those like green. They want it like green.
Is that genuinely like, it's not necessarily about, well, I'm sure it's about all the things, but it's less about just like your aroma, it
depends on what you want. Yeah. But also you want to assess those cones, because we've had it where we've had a batch and it's all the leaves are broken off and it's all the cones are broken up. You don't want that because the leaves, like the leaves are protecting the lupulin. If it's all broken up, you're going to have lost bits of lupulin and you're not going to have the bits that you want. So you want nice intact cones. You want to, like, when our proper sensory people are getting into it, they're looking at color, they're looking at whether it's broken up, they're assessing whether you can see pests and disease on those cones. Like, that should be done before you get it, but also you do want to be looking, like, something might have been missed, so you want to be looking to see if there's like any brown spots, if these hops look nice. Like, some breweries really want like that, they want them green, they want to look green, they want to look great. There are other people who are like, this is not a beauty contest. The hop doesn't need to look perfect as long as I'm getting the aroma that I want from it. So
when you talk about they're putting it on a table, like roughly how much are you talking about is going on a table, like in terms of,
so it's like
a box? Are we talking about an entire table?
It's a row of like picnic tables, and they're usually in like a plastic canister that's a little bit fatter round than a can, probably about the same depth as a 440ml can, but a bit fatter.
Okay.
And that's your sample from that lot.
So you're not getting like, it's not like in my brain, where you like walked in and they're like, make it rain with hops, and there's like hops everywhere. Because I'm thinking like you've got the like you pull a they're like pulling a handle and all these like hops rain down, and then you're like, there's so many, and then you look at them and you're like, how do you even tell the difference between them? But I guess if you've only got a jar that's like a bit wider, so
there's like a jar,
it's a lot easier to spot than just like
so it's a sample that's been taken. So these like they come in like, so the hops are delivered to the supplier from the farms in these like big, in bales, right? So like you've seen like bales of hay, like so you get bales of hops that are wrapped in a sack. And then a sample is taken out of that bale, and then it is labelled with a number and a code, and that then tracks back to the farm that it came from and the lot number. So you're making sure you're getting the right, it's all labelled. When we've got a sheet with the labels and with the lots and the farms on, and so then you're writing notes against that particular lot because you've got the number. You know what farm it's come from. Like some of them might be from Washington, might be from Idaho, might be from Oregon. So you can see what farm it's from when you're doing it. It's all very controlled. It's not a trapdoor that drops hops on people.
I'm just thinking they're coming out and they're like dumping buckets for like I'm picturing like big like bins, and they're just like and they're just like throwing it all out on the table, and you've just got like a buffet of hops, and I'm thinking like, I mean, it does look like feels a buffet wasteful.
It does look like a buffet of hops. I mean, if you go to Love Villainy on Instagram, I'm pretty sure there is like a highlight that is like the Yakima. That's probably one of my Yakima harvests, and that
in my head, I'm just going to pretend you pull the rope and it dumps all the hops on the table.
If you go through my Instagram and you find one of my reels about. Or one of my photos from the Yakima harvest, there'll be photos of these like pots of hops like lined along a table, and
they're doctored because that's not it that we put. It's a rope. You pull the rope and the hops all fall on the table. So la 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 la.
But you do get like I've had like my favorite every time. We always have loads of bloody mosaic, which is my least favorite.
That's the one you hate.
It's always like 14 lots of mosaic to go through, but so like it's set up so you can go out and like as you're rubbing, like even while we've just done it here, like if you go like there's
my hand's all right, but you can still smell it,
and the waxes and stuff are on your hands, and so like people like your hands end up like black because they've got all these oils and resins on them, and so then they have like scouring solution, like Rick will have for when he's like doing greasy stuff on the car.
I was going to say I've got orange orange
that
soap.
Stuff. Well, they have a non-scented one. In fact, they had one.
I think the orange soap is technically. I think mine's technically not scented. It's not actually scented of anything. There was
a scouring powder that they had this year, which was a new product. My colleagues told me that is made from a byproduct from the hop industry. I can't remember what he said.
Interesting.
Like I think it's like ground up vines or something, and so they had a scouring powder that was made, and they were like, "Yeah, it's made out of hops." Like they didn't make it; someone else made it, but they were like, and it's really good. So they've started using that.
I like that because it's promoting the whole life cycle of a hop,
right? So that was really cool. But then, so you've got that to clean your hands between varieties, but also if you've got a lot and you need a moment to, because you do go a bit nose blind, like you have to come out and
I would need several moments.
And then they have like a little lounge where there's like drinks and snacks, and you can come and kind of reset yourself and take a moment and then go back in again.
My brain,
it's a whole thing.
Where it goes to is like what some people picture heaven of, like you walk into a white room and I'm like some people might see that as clinical, some people might see that as like some version of like a back rooms heaven, and like someone's like, I need a moment. Like I just picture somebody like, I need a moment, and then they like walk out into, because you don't want to overload senses. It's like I just picture this like very bright white room.
I mean, where the hops are is actually the bright white room, and then you go out into like a little place that's got a nice sofa like to sit in.
Alien abduction or something like that. That's not what I mean, but I just picture it just being like, you're like, oh, this is too much, I've got to go. And then you just walk into the most like plain room where you're like, no smells. Don't even give me something to look at because I'm overloaded. I'm sensory overloaded.
Well, actually, when you come out to that bit, there's usually merch.
So like that. Okay, I'm back in. But then I picture you go to this playroom, then you go back in, and then they're all like making it rain with the hop. They're making it hail with the hops.
They're not making it rain with the hops.
It sounds fun though. Like in that sense, do you have to do as many hops as like the brewers you're with want to look at? So like, is it dictated mainly by like yourselves, or is it like this is what you're looking at today?
We're the company that I work for are the buyer of those hops.
Got it.
We say what
and you're
varieties
inviting
we
them
look
to
at. And then we bring
get feedback.
Yeah,
got you.
Because then we're getting that brewer feedback right on what they want from those hops, and they're the people that are going to be buying it. So, but yeah, we are the buyer. So, but it's like a brewery going in. They want to buy these varieties, so they are going to then or contract these varieties. So they are then selecting from the varieties they want, and we go in, we say what ones we want. And I mean, there are ones that there are hops that we buy, but it's not really worth rubbing and like doing a rub and sniff of them, because
it's the experience though a bit, isn't it, as well, of like you might go, here's all the normal things we're doing, and then there's certain ones that you're like, I want the experience of going there and seeing for myself.
But some of the hops, it's less important to rub and sniff them because they're not an aroma hop. So it doesn't actually matter, because you're not, you're looking for the amount of alpha acid in that hop to add bitterness, rather than what it smells like. Like it will just smell like a hop. So, but there's some varieties that it doesn't matter really they're not an aroma choice.
I love
their
that.
purpose is something else.
You walk in to go get it and you're like, this is for us. And then you're like, with your entourage, you're like, oh, like that's kind of like what it is, isn't it? You're like, oh, the brewers come with you. You're like, it's our entourage. They're going to help us today. I want to. You can cut this out and not put this in if you don't want. But I want to ask like a question that's like kind of like the tea. What's the quickest you've ever had a hop hit a table and then been like, no, we're good, and then just like moved on? I want to know the answer, and you can cut it out if you want. But I want to know the answer because I think it's interesting.
I don't think we've ever been really like fast, like, because you do like everyone usually there's a group of us that are between 10 and 20 of us, so everyone wants to have a go and like decide, like let us know what their opinion is. Like you want to give everybody that chance, and we want that feedback. In fact, our sensory teams from John O'Hart are in the room listening to what people are saying, so they can see, because there are differences between what US brewers want and what European brewers want. So they're listening to what they're saying to help compile that qualitative data as well. So it's never like,
presumably they're not taking, like you said, because they're doing quality checks as well. Like presumably they're not being like, oh, here's, when you're saying like, oh, in theory, someone could be looking for ones that look like this or look like that. But like by and large, that's just across like anyone doing hop selection. But presumably like you're going there and actually it's the quality check best of the best. So you're not like having one where you're looking at it going, that's all falling apart. I don't even want to smell that one. There shouldn't be anything bad on the table, because that's already been looked at, and that would have been sent back. That would have been returned to the farm, been like, we're not taking that. Like, there should be good quality that's on the table. Sometimes you'll get ones that don't smell the way you want them to. There's definitely been times where we've gone, I don't know what that's not right. That doesn't smell right. Like, but you take the time to do that. It's not like you never kind of like go into it, like take like a few minutes. No, it's not the one. What's the quickest someone's ever like just gone, it's all the same? Do you ever have anyone that's just gone like, I'm out, I can't?
Yeah.
Like, what's the quickest amount of rounds anyone's ever just been like, I can't, I'm tapping out?
You go through about like five or six lots before you start to feel it, I think.
And then people get to like 6, 7, and they're just 8, and they're like,
I'm taking a minute.
I can't. I need a moment. I need to go to the very bland room out there with no senses. Like, I need a quiet room. That's I just think it's what's in my brain of what I imagine it is excellent. But I imagine it's very different, but also very interesting as well in its own right to do that. And I think it'd be right. I mean, that's something that I will never get the opportunity to do, but I do think it would be really cool to do just for the experience of like, how many waves could I make it through before I literally tapped out and just went no, because I think there's a part of me that's like the perfectionist.
Like, this just smells like hop, and I'm like,
there's a part of me that is like that, like high achieving. You've set me this task of like, we are here and we're doing this, so like let's do it to the best of our abilities for every wave. And then there's a part of me that can't be asked and is like, it's hops.
I always try and get us like a really long session, because I would like everyone to take their time about it. I've definitely had it where people are like, can you hurry up please? And I'm like, no. I'm like, no.
Can you hurry up? No, I cannot.
Thank you.
No.
They're like, oh, you might want to go a bit quicker. And I'm like, no.
I feel like I could sit here and like ask you all the questions, but I feel like I can't, because I feel like there'll be questions I ask you like, can't answer that one.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, we're starting to get to I can't answer that territory.
Love it.
Proprietary information.
Proprietary info. Yeah, I just think it would be fun to do it. I wish that like somebody would open it up to be like, are you not a brewer but you still want to do it? Come with us, and I'd be like, yeah, all right.
I mean, you might be able to do some like UK hop ones. There's probably a bit of Robin sniffing over this way.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel as glamorous, does it? I want to be someone's entourage. I want to roll in with like a big fur coat and be someone's entourage. Be like, yeah, I'm sniffing hops on their behalf.
It's far too hot to be wearing.
Yeah, that's true, especially at that time of year.
The first year I went, everyone, all the brewers did go crazy because Treehouse were there with their black van with their black tree on it.
I'll just sneak in with them.
That was really funny. Like the brewers
be like
were
Boston
like
to Boston, mate.
taking photos of the van, like they were rock stars. It was pretty funny.
Teach their own. No, I do. I love Treehouse. I love Treehouse as well. I think I want to be very clear that I do like Treehouse quite a lot. My thing is just like, they're so much more accessible to me than to a lot of other people. So like when people are like, oh, and they're just like leasing it over, I'm like, well, if you can
so they were like I was like, they were like
11 months I'll be
there. Are they selecting next to us? I was like, I don't know, maybe. Like they might have just left their van there and gone, they might be doing like a production tour. And they were like, what if Treehouse are in the room next to us? Because there's two rooms, you can have two lots going on at once. I don't think Treehouse.
It is funny just seeing what people like, breweries that people nerd out over. Like before we were recording, we were talking about through the conversation we were having before we started recording, we were talking about the brewers being rock stars, and like to people, like people putting them on a pedestal and be like, oh, this person's like a rock star, but then like, you know, sometimes you just go, that's just a normal, you know, when you get to know them, you're like, oh, that's just like so and so, and you don't think about it like that anymore. And it is just really funny about seeing who people really like fangirl over. It's like like I love Treehouse, but then I'm like, yeah, you just give me like 11 months, I'll just, you know, whatever. Like I got a message from someone, I'm not going to name who I got a message from. It's like when I was at Christmas, it was like, well, are you going to be going by Treehouse at all? Because I'm looking for this particular beer. And I was just like, it's like 15 minutes away. Like, yeah, if you tell me what you want, go pick it up for you. Do a click and collect, like a cheeky little click and collect. But then I feel like the people that I'm sure there's people that I fawn over that other people are like, yeah, that's like right down the road from where I go. Like some of the Belgian brewers, I'm like, oh my God. I can't even, like, if I saw their van, I'd be like, oh my goodness. And like, there's other people that are like, yeah, I go there like every summer. I can go and pick you up a case. And I'm like, oh, amazing. I feel like, I don't want to ask you any more tea-based questions, but I do have a lot, but
you can ask me after recording. So there you go. That is hop breeding programs, hop development, and hop selection for you.
That's fantastic. Joe, if people want to know more, if they want to ask you questions about the hop selection process or hop breeding or just hops in general, where can they come talk to you?
You can ask me if we're skirting the line of too proprietary. I won't be able to answer, but come and ask
No,
me.
don't
anyway.
ask her
I'll
for
see.
tea. Just ask her just generic
Ask me for
questions.
the tea. Just ask me for generic things. If you've got more questions about things, you can find me. I'm on Instagram as Love Beer Learning. I'm also on Facebook, but you're more likely to find me on Instagram. You can also come to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, or you can email me with your questions about hops at lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Tori, if people want to speak to you,
they can come try to if they want to. I keep trying to bully Ruth to come on and talk about terroir. She did say that she would do it. She did say that she would. But like, if you want to hear about like terroir when it comes to hops, and when you're looking at it in a similar view as wine, if you want to get me to bully her to come talk on the podcast to us, you can message me on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism. You can email me, just be like, please bully her and get her to come on and talk about it. You can email me at adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com. You can reach out to both of us if you were just like, you know what, talking about this, I want to know more inside baseball. Please talk to me about more inside baseball, Joe. We want the tea. Let's talk about more different, HBC. What's more experimental hops? You want to know about that? You can reach out to both of us at A Woman's Brew on Instagram or Facebook. You can email us at awomansbrewpodcast@gmail.com. And if you just want to share, like, say you really like this recording and you really want to recommend to somebody else, but you don't know what that person listens to, or if they prefer watching or listening, you can send them our website, which is a womansbrewpod.beer, which is a womansbrewpod.beer. I've got like 2 sips left of this. I really enjoy this. I like the coconut. Yeah. I'm here for it. So yeah, gonna go finish this now.
Dolcita's great. Go find some Dolcita.
Dolcita's great.
Cheers.
Cheers.